Hey, guess what? The Secret Service has published a bulletin warning people about fraud with regard to properties, particularly remote closings on unencumbered properties. That means it's free and clear, there's no debt on it, or it's vacant, or both. Land or property that has no, that you can even have a renter in there. I don't care. Here's the deal. They target properties with no debts, free of mortgage or other liens. Why? Because the title company doesn't have to contact a lender for a payoff. Okay, so they're going to target those properties. This means a lot of older people who've paid off their mortgages, or longtime property owners, or landowners who've bought with cash, things like that, that don't carry debt. Those are the ones at the highest risk. Does that make a case for not following Dave Ramsey's policies? Maybe. It's a de risking tool. Keep debt on the property. Who knows? Okay, so as long as there's a lender attached to that property, the title company is going to have to contact that lender for a payoff request, which may result in triggering the actual property owner to be notified. So they want to avoid that. Then they pose as the property owner and contact an agent, or they'll list it for sale cash on Facebook or wherever. They want a cash buyer. They'll do the low, too good to be true, below market rates. Okay, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. They can find on public record who the owners are, and they can create fake IDs. Did you realize it is so easy to create fake IDs, even for in-person signings? So to me, remote online notary is probably even safer than in person with an ID, because you can fake an ID, and not every notary is going to notice. Not every notary is going to care. So the knowledge-based authentication on online notaries. Then again, if they've got a friend who's a notary, they can forge that stuff too. But they're going to pose as the property owner and list it for sale. A little bit too good of a deal to make it too good to be true. And then they obviously want to get cash. They don't want to bring another lender in. If you're not a cash buyer, they're not interested in your offer because they don't want to wait for approvals. They want a fast close. They don't want this thing open long enough to get enough attention to see the light of day where somebody can catch it. There's no way right now for most property owners to get notified of their property being listed or any of that stuff. Some counties are starting to send a letter. Some title companies are starting to send a letter to every property owner in the mail, just to make sure that the owner of record gets a notice. Hey, we're getting ready to close on your property on 123 Main Street on such and such date. And that has resulted in the busting of some of these schemes as well. They will not close in person. They want a mobile notary. They want the notary to travel to them. They are not affiliated with anybody necessarily. They're just an independent agent. All their job is to do is check your face, check your ID, watch you sign. If you have a fake ID, it's pretty easy to fake. Now, remote online notary with knowledge-based authentication might ask you what car you had in 1992, what addresses you've lived at to prove you are who you are, like when you apply for a credit card, those knowledge-based questions. That's a little bit more solid. So even better than in-person signings is the remote online notary with knowledge-based authentication, I believe. They will request a remote signing. They don't want to show up in person. They also don't want anybody to see their face for real, or have a chance to get their license plate or any of that stuff. So they'll request to meet at like a coffee shop. And how many closings have we seen done at coffee shops or other places? Like, yeah, I'm buying a property, but I'm traveling, I'm on business, you got to meet me on here. So it's not unusual to a mobile notary. Then they will, or a co-conspirator, impersonates a notary and provides falsified documents. So if they can steal a notary stamp, there's a market for those. Or have a stamp made that looks like a real notary. What are we going to do? Go check the notary number for every single notary? I guess we could, but that seems to be a pretty easy way to cheat the system. And then without knowing, the title company or attorney, whoever, will go ahead and transfer the property. They'll have the deed signed over to the new person from the seller, but it really wasn't. And they just sold a property and got cash for it, and they never even owned it. Yikes. What you can do to solve this, you need to independently check out who is who in the transaction. Make sure you look up the county records. Make sure the title company understands. If you can do in-person meetups, do that. Get the ID, get a copy of the ID early in the process before they've got their fake one made. Right? I've asked for copies of scanned IDs early in a transaction. Watch for the too good to be true deals. I mean, that's what we're all out looking for. Is it too good to be true because they don't know what they're offering, or is it because they know what they're offering and it's too good to be true? Never allow a seller to arrange for their own notary closing. That's a pretty good one. You want an independent third party to send that notary. So having somebody go to the UPS store or they've got a friend at work that can notarize, not quite the preferred route, which makes sense. You just want to go through more independent third party routes that where they're less familiar with anything and they should have a more watchful eye, but they can also be trusted to not be a co-conspirator, more likely. There's not a lot you can do. Some counties are starting to alert property owners when their property goes for sale or is ready for transfer. They're requiring that mandatory. I think that's going to end up being the solution. Is that the county's going to have to at least send a notice. Some people are unreachable, so that's going to make it tough. But it's the people who don't live in the property that are going to have the hardest time tracking this stuff down. They're the victims out for the worst. So be vigilant, keep an eye out, and help each other out. Ask good questions.